Part 1. The map that refuses the present I inherited a small wooden box from my grandmother. Its surface scratched with strange circular patterns that no one in the family had ever noticed before. The box smelled faintly of cedar and dust, as if it had carried not only objects but centuries. Inside, wrapped in faded silk, the color of dried roses, was a folded map. At first it seemed like nothing more than old parchment, yellowed, cracked, and nearly forgotten by time. But when I held it close, the air around me shifted, and the paper grew warm. The moment I closed my eyes and remembered the faint scent of her house in Aleppo, jasmine mixed with old books and rain seeping through stone, the map began to stir. Glowing blue lines crawled across the parchment like veins of fire. They pulsed, spreading wider and wider, until the empty paper was alive with rivers of light. The map awakened not, to guide me to any place alive, but to what had already vanished, as if history itself had been caught and pressed between its fibers. Beneath the silk lay a single note written in my grandmother's delicate handwriting. To find what was lost, give up what you cannot hold. I did not understand at first, but I would soon learn. The map was no gift. It demanded something for every door it opened. A memory, a sacrifice. When I whispered her voice in my mind, her words echoing from childhood, "Do not lose what cannot be seen," 3 symbols burned onto the map's surface: a key, a spear, and a wave. They glowed like constellations trapped on paper, 3 worlds erased from history, 3 doors waiting for me. The first to awaken was the key. Its light spread outward, and the map's lines carved themselves across the paper, threading deep into the desert. Toward the empty quarter, the Rub al-Khali, where shifting dunes swallowed every traveler. Legends called it Uber, the Atlantis of the sands, a city of towers that shone like glass, a city built not on stone but on storms. But the map went dark. Its light collapsed into silence. I realized it wanted payment. In the box lay a lock of my childhood hair, tied with a ribbon. I remembered how my grandmother cut it during a summer in Aleppo, telling me it was a piece of time, a fragment of innocence. With trembling fingers, I laid the lock upon the map. The parchment drank it. The lines blazed alive, brighter than before. Heat rushed through the air, and suddenly the desert split open before me, like curtains pulled wide across a stage. There were no houses, no towers at first, only endless dunes trembling in the wind. And then I saw them. Colossal gates rising from the sands, each one carved with a palm-shaped mark. Ancient and deliberate, as if the desert itself had hands. I pressed my palm against the stone. The air roared like a storm breaking free. The dunes collapsed inward, spiraling into a stairway of pure light. The ground itself trembled as though remembering what it had buried for centuries. At the bottom of the stairway, suspended in the heart of the storm, was a marketplace unlike any I had ever seen. Stalls floated in the air, tethered only by ropes of wind. The merchants were shadows, their faces veiled in sand, their voices whispering in forgotten tongues. They traded in memories, in moments stolen from childhood laughter, first loves, last words. I realized then what the map had brought me into. Not a city of gold or stone, but a city of echoes, where everything lost still lived, waiting to be bartered. And this was only the first door. The air grew cold as the bridge cracked beneath my feet. Behind me, the marketplace of memories collapsed into itself, leaving nothing but a whisper of wind-blown sand. Before me stretched the gray wastelands of history, leading to a shore where the past had been buried so deep it might have been trying to hide. My compass swayed wildly, pulled in 1,000 directions by competing echoes from times long gone. Beside me, Jonas adjusted his scarf, shielding his face against the elements. "You must choose a direction," he said. "Yes. Are you lost, or are you found?" I didn't know the answer. History doesn't always lead to an end. Sometimes it circles endlessly. Still, I had come this far, and I would not turn back now. So I stepped forward onto the path ahead, following the silent hum of voices just out of earshot, the murmur of waves breaking on a distant shore. Then suddenly the ground beneath my feet rippled, reforming into solid ground, while the path behind me dissolved into shifting sands. I hurried forward, eager to leave the wasteland behind, my pace quickening as the coast drew closer. When I emerged from between the dunes, I found myself on a beach of polished stones, a wide expanse of jet-black pebbles stretching before me, meeting the endless horizon at either side. From here, the sea glittered like spilled ink, shimmering under a sky without end. And on the other side, the ruins of a great city rose from the waves, a citadel of broken pillars and shattered arches. Some were tall and slender, looking as if they had been sculpted from reeds. Others were stout and carved with intricate patterns of curling vines. Most were simply geometric, smoothed and sharpened by the relentless grinding of sand and surf until they resembled fallen giants, frozen in an eternal struggle against the tide. And as I watched, the waves surged forward, swallowing another arch beneath the churning water. A scrap of parchment fluttered, snatched from some ruined scroll, spiraling slowly on the breeze. Picking it up, I saw that it contained the symbol of a single eye gazing outward over the horizon. It was the same as the sigil sewn into my own robes, the sign of the keepers, sworn to protect the last vestiges of human knowledge, even as the world forgot what those lessons meant. I traced the lines of the symbol, feeling the weight of countless untold stories pressing against my fingertips. For a moment, the past felt real, urgent, as though all the years since someone had walked these paths were nothing but a breath. But then the wind shifted, bringing with it a new sound. At first it was faint, just a low humming vibration that seemed to come from within the earth itself. Then it swelled into a roar, shaking the stones beneath my feet. From the direction of the ruined city, a great geyser of water shot into the air, spraying fine droplets high above the highest towers. I watched as a river of tumbling foam rushed toward me, churning and frothing like some primordial beast rising from its lair. At its center flowed a spiral of iridescent bubbles, shifting through every color imaginable, before bursting one by one until the foam itself began to fade. With a final sigh, the geyser fell back to the sea, leaving me alone once more on the shore. Holding the scroll tightly, I hurried away from the churning waves and toward the waiting city, hoping to find shelter among its crumbling pillars. Before whatever storm was coming arrived, the growing gloom, I made my way along the shore, weaving between the weathered stones. Soon enough, I found a natural archway formed by two pillars, still standing defiantly against the tide. Passing through, I found myself in a vast courtyard enclosed on all sides by ancient walls. In the center stood a pool filled with stagnant water, choked by weeds and buzzing with insects. But what caught my attention was a figure perched on the edge, cloaked in flowing robes. Their head was bowed, hiding their face, but I could feel their eyes watching me as I approached. Finally, when I was close enough, they turned, revealing the face of an old woman with startlingly bright eyes. "You seek the answers that lie before you," she stated, not bothering to ask. Her gaze was sharp, unsettling, as though she could see not just who I was, but everything I had ever done and everything I might become. "I do," I admitted, surprised by how little hesitation I felt. Normally, I prefer to keep people at a distance, to observe and study rather than reveal my own thoughts and feelings. But something about her calm assuredness put me at ease. "And what would you give in exchange?" she asked, gesturing to the courtyard. "For knowledge is a costly thing, and the past is not so kind as to give it freely." I hesitated. What did I have that she would want? Power. I wasn't powerful, not yet. Wealth. I possessed nothing she could use. Secrets, perhaps. She already seemed to know too much. But then I remembered the day I had almost died, when I was sure there was nothing left for me but to give myself up to the keepers. I had ached with a despair so profound, so utterly soul-destroying, that I would gladly trade eternity to have it back. If knowledge came at such a cost, this was the price I was willing to pay. And as I surrendered that pain to the wind, letting it drift away into the courtyard, I saw the old woman stir. She reached out a gnarled finger, tracing the shape of a bubble in the air, and the world around me exploded in a flash of blinding light. When my vision returned, I found myself standing in a place of shadow and fog, surrounded by towering figures that seemed to stretch up into the heavens themselves. I shivered, drawing my cloak tighter despite the oppressive stillness of the air. Where was the old woman? Had I been tricked? Or was she among these silent, watchful presences? Then I heard a whisper, barely audible, yet somehow echoing through my very bones. "Come closer. Don't be afraid. Come closer." I took a hesitant step forward, then another, moving through the mist, until I came upon a towering presence whose features were obscured by the swirling fog. The whispers grew louder, urging me on, and I reached out a hand, desperate to break through the haze and touch the source of the voice. But as my fingers brushed the mist, it coalesced into a shield, blocking my path. Startled, I stumbled back, fear prickling at the edges of my awareness. "Don't run," the voice whispered. "I won't hurt you." And then it spoke again, this time with a hint of urgency. "You have a choice to make, Seeker. Which path will you follow? One will lead you home. The other will show you all you could have been." The prospect both terrified and tempted me. Home was safe, comfortable, predictable. The other path held the promise of infinite possibilities, the chance to explore uncharted waters and rewrite my destiny. Yet there was a catch, a nagging uncertainty that gnawed at my resolve. Could I trust this voice? Is it leading me to knowledge or to ruin? To choose wisely, I needed more information. Taking a deep breath, I decided to play my last card. I gathered my courage and asked, "Who are you?" The response was immediate and chilling. The fog swirled and pulsed, forming a visage of immense power and sorrow. "I am the keeper of crossroads," the voice boomed, resonating within my very core. "I guide those who seek the labyrinth, but I am not its master. Those who enter my domain leave changed forever, whether they wish it or not. The decision, Seeker, is ultimately yours. Will you embrace the infinite maze of possibilities, or return to the familiar path? The choice, as always, is yours. You may choose the path of safety or the path of potential. Whichever you choose, I will honor your decision." And with that, the mist swirled and coalesced, forming a fork in the path before me. One led deeper into the shadowy labyrinth, beckoning with the promise of infinite possibilities. The other wound its way upward, pushing through the fog and toward a distant glimmer of light. And if you want to know what happened next, well, then you're going to have to find the next part yourself, because this is an interactive story. You can make choices that affect the story and where it goes next. And there are many paths through the adventure.
So,
Keep watching till the end to find out how you can find the next part of the story. Before we begin, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any stories. Part 3. The City Beneath the Sea. The boat pitched and tossed in the waves, fighting its way against the wind. My brother Finn and I huddled together, our backs pressed against the mast as we fought to hold the sails steady. Our father was gone, vanished behind the wheelhouse as he struggled with the storm. Only our mother remained calm, her face set as she gripped the ropes, but even she flinched when a rogue wave struck. "Hold fast," she shouted over the din. "Hold fast or we'll be lost." Then she did something that made no sense at all. She unfurled a tattered piece of parchment from the mast and held it up to the sky. The wind snatched it from her grasp and tore it in two. "What are you doing?" I screamed at her above the noise. "We'll never get out of this alive now." But her eyes were fixed on the churning waves, and she only answered, "I have no choice. The map shows us the way." Moments later, the world shifted on its axis. The wind died down to a whisper. The rain stopped abruptly. And when I looked at the map in my hands, the path forward was clear. A single word swam up to greet me: undertow. The map pulsed with power, and the sea around us rumbled in response. But the way was dangerous. The undertow would pull us apart, scattering us to the four winds. If we survived, we might never find each other again. Still, my mother said only, "Then we must go." We dove into the waves, following the compass downward. Time seemed to slow. Schools of fish darted through broken columns, and great stone arches loomed in the shadows of the sea. Here was a city that had trusted itself to memory heavier than water, but even memory can drown. Every surface was carved with letters I could not read, yet when I brushed my hand across them, I understood. They told of a place that had once ruled the coasts, trading with empires long gone. Now it slept beneath the tide, nameless, voiceless. And then, without knowing why, I whispered a name: Thonis, or Clayan. The water quaked. The ruins trembled as though they recognized the word. The carvings lit up, glowing softly like jellyfish. The city had been waiting centuries for its name to be spoken again. In gratitude, it opened its heart to us. At the city center, we found a crystal disk engraved with swirling lines. When I pressed it to the map, the waters themselves seemed to move across the parchment. It was no accident, no tragedy of nature alone. The seas and winds had chosen to erase these places, hiding them from the living. But to leave meant another sacrifice. As I surfaced, I felt something slip away inside me. My childhood laughter, the sound of it, was gone. The map had stolen joy itself. The compass turned again, pointing inland, toward the dark mountains that cut the horizon. The third and final door awaited us. The symbol of the spear burned like fire on the parchment. So now you need to make a choice. What do you want to do? Do you want to follow the path shown to you by the map, though you know not where it may lead? Or do you want to try and find another way, one less fraught with peril, perhaps one that will allow you to keep more of yourself? Choose carefully, for your decision will affect not only where the story goes next, but who you are at its end. To make your choice, all you have to do is find the next part of the story. And that won't be easy, you see. The map has swallowed the land, and the sea around it is treacherous and filled with monsters. Your best chance of finding the next part of the story is to search the web for clues, following the whispers of the wind, the song of the sirens, or maybe the rumble of the earth itself. Good luck, you'll need it. Now, whether you chose to trust the map or not, the story must come to an end. And here is where your choice will affect the ending. If you decided to follow the map, then write the word "follow" in the comments below. If you decided to try and find another way, then write the word "resist" in the comments below. Let the author know what you decided. And if you want to know what happens next, well, then you're going to have to find the next part yourself, because this is an interactive story. You can make choices that affect the story and where it goes next. So keep watching till the end to find out how you can find the next part of the story. Before we begin, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any stories. The road wound through the belly of the mountain, growing darker, colder with every step. I pulled my cloak tighter, wishing I'd brought Finn's laughter with me. The silence pressed in, heavy and thick. Up ahead, a shaft of light pierced the gloom, and I quickened my pace, only to find a wall barring my way. Inscribed on it was a single line: "Only what is given can be taken." I frowned, puzzled. Just then, a voice boomed from the shadows. "Speak the name, child, and the way will open." I whirled around to face the speaker, a wizened crone with eyes like chips of ice. "Who are you?" I demanded, taking a step back. "Who are you, and what do you want?" She chuckled, a sound like pebbles grinding together. "I am the mountain's heart, and this is the last trial. The door beyond is locked tight with magic, and only a precious gift can unlock it." "What do you want?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What would you have me give?" The old woman stepped closer, her eyes boring into mine. "The most precious thing you have left, child. Speak the truth, and the way is yours." For a moment, I considered lying, hoping the door would open anyway. But there was no point in that. The mountain knew my every thought, so I closed my eyes and whispered, "What do you want?" When I opened them again, I saw a flicker of surprise cross the old woman's face, quickly replaced by a cruel smile. "That's right, child. Ask, and you shall receive." She cackled, waving a gnarled finger. "But remember, you can only choose what has been taken from you. You cannot bring back what you have sacrificed." With that, she stepped aside, revealing the final door. Through it, I could hear the roar of rushing water and feel the pull of the current. Beyond lay the sea, the open ocean where the winds of change blew free. Taking a deep breath, I began to speak, calling upon everything that had been stolen from me: the sea, the city, the joy of laughter. The door shuddered as though in pain. I poured every ounce of feeling into my words, embracing the sorrow, anger, and fear that threatened to consume me. Finally, the door groaned and began to slide open. But before I could step through, the old woman cried, "Wait, child, and remember what the map told you." "Are you sure you wish to leave all this behind?" Hope surged through me. Maybe there was a way to undo what had been done, to reclaim all that I'd lost. I turned back to the woman, determination hardening my voice. "I have a choice to make." "Indeed you do," she rasped, stepping back. "Behind this door lies the boundless sea, where anything is possible, where you can become whoever you choose. But beware, for every choice has its consequence. By passing through this door, you leave the past behind, sacrificing all memory of it forever. There is no turning back, no second chances. Are you sure you wish to proceed, child? I stared at the opening, its darkness beckoning me forward. I thought of Finn and the life that awaited me beyond the mountain. I realized that I couldn't stay here any longer. Whatever lay ahead, whatever trials or dangers awaited, I had to face them. It was time to move forward and embrace whatever my future held. I took a deep breath, steeled my nerves, and with newfound resolve, I stepped through the door and disappeared from sight. If you want to know what happens next, well then you've got to find the next part of the story for yourself, because this is an interactive story. You can make choices that affect the story and where it goes next. So keep watching till the end to find out how you can find the next part of the story. Before we begin, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any stories. Part 3. The Map Maker. The wind snatched at my cloak as I leaned over the railing, staring down at the clouds below. They looked like shriveled fruit, wrinkled and brown. And just as I felt like plucking one from the sky and eating it, a hand landed on my shoulder. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "Hungry?" he asked. I nodded. He took my hand, his touch as familiar as my own name. Then he leaped. I squeezed my eyes shut, surprised, and when I dared to open them, I saw that somehow we were standing on a street lively and bright. This wasn't Cairo or Damascus. I didn't recognize any of the colors or shapes around me. There were shops with goods I'd never seen before. People spoke in languages I'd never heard. And yet there was something deeply comforting about this place. Even though I had no idea where we were, I knew we were somewhere safe. Because wherever Yoons was, wherever he could bring me, I knew I was home. He squeezed my hand, leading me through the crowd. As we walked, I marveled at everything I saw, trying to fill my head, my hands, my heart with this moment, with Yoons. And then we stopped. We stood in front of a shop, its windows filled with maps, globes, astrolabes, and sundials. Above the door hung a sign with a drawing of the world and the words "Every place under the sun." "Welcome to the place where I live," he said, looking at me, his eyes shining with pride. "What is this place?" I asked him, laughing, for I had no idea. "Where are we?" "Here," he said, touching the sign, "is between the hours. Between yesterday and tomorrow, between stories told and stories yet to be written. Here is the place where memories wait to be found." The bell above the door chimed as we entered. Inside, the air smelled like old paper and new adventures. Maps of lands I recognized hung on the walls, alongside ones that seemed to chart the constellations themselves. Globes of every size sat on tables, and in the center of it all was a vast, unfurled map stretching from floor to ceiling. When I saw it, my breath caught in my throat. It was unlike any map I'd seen in my life. Drawn on a strange material that shimmered like moonlight, it showed a world that was both familiar and alien. There were lands and seas I recognized, but also strange shapes and symbols I couldn't decipher. And then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My village was on the map, marked with a skull and crossbones. "Is that real?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You said this was a place of memories," I whispered, my fingers tracing the lines of my home, which were now a thing of the past. "Show me," he said, taking my hand and leading me to a globe. How small our world can seem. With a flick of his wrist, Yon spun the globe. It slowed, revealing a landmass composed of islands. I stared horrified, as one island in particular turned toward me. It was my home, or rather it was the way I remembered it, alive and breathing. Then as quickly as it appeared, it vanished behind the curve of the globe. Just like that, my whole world disappeared from sight, and then he showed me more. He showed me the great libraries, the bustling markets, the quiet gardens, all waiting patiently until the right moment to reveal themselves. "Where do these memories come from?" I asked, feeling as if I were drowning in a sea of faces, voices, laughter. Memories I had thought lost forever. "From here," he said, tapping the globe. "They've been traveling inside of me, waiting for the right time to find their way out." Suddenly, the air grew heavy, and a chill swept through the room, despite the warmth of the fire crackling in the hearth. I could feel the memories pressing against me, insistent, desperate to be free. "Let them go," I whispered, reaching out and touching the globe, and with that, the room began to spin. The maps on the walls rippled and swirled until they too became part of the globe. The fire in the hearth flared, then faded, leaving behind only a faint glow. "I thought we had more time," I whispered, reaching out for Youn's, but he had vanished. The globe pulsed with a soft light, and when I looked closely, I saw that it was filled with more maps than I had ever imagined. Each line, each curve, each shading told the story of a life lived, a love lost, a battle fought, a meal shared, a story told. But as I stared, I realized that there was something missing. Among these maps, there was one place that refused to be charted, one memory that refused to be uncovered, the memory of my parents. I pressed my palm against the globe, willing it to show me what I needed to see. And then I felt it, a pulse, a beat beneath my fingertips. And as I followed it, the globe revealed one final map, one that held the key to everything. Part 2, The Cartographer's Apprentice. I woke up with a gasp, drenched in sweat. The dream clung to me like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. Where was I? What had happened? And then I saw him, sleeping peacefully beside me. His chest rose and fell steadily. His face was relaxed, free of the burdens I knew he carried. Only the faintest trace of a smile touched his lips, as if even in sleep he were charting unknown waters. I wanted to wake him, to ask him questions, but I couldn't bear to break the tranquility on his face. Instead, I got up quietly, careful not to disturb him, and went to the window. Outside, the sun was rising, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold. A new day had begun, and with it, new possibilities. But the dream lingered in my mind, a dark cloud threatening to eclipse the day. Who was I? Why did I have no memories? And why did everyone seem to know me, yet no one remembered? I sighed and turned away from the window. Eunice stirred beside me, and for a moment I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes, before they softened into the familiar pools of warmth and wisdom. "You were having a nightmare," he said, his voice husky with sleep. "I could feel you crying out." He sat up and reached for me, his touch gentle but firm. "What did you see?" "I don't know," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. I couldn't see clearly, but I felt it, a darkness, a void, like a piece of me was missing. "Then let us find it," he said, standing up and extending his hand to help me. "Let us start at the beginning." As the sun climbed higher in the sky, we walked side by side through the bustling souk, the vibrant colors and sounds of the market fading into a blur around me. All I could see was Yunus, his back straight, his steps confident, his gaze unwavering. But as we approached a particular stall, his hand tightened on mine, and I could feel the tension in his shoulders. The stall was filled with old books, their pages brittle with age, their covers adorned with faded illustrations. As we stepped closer, I could make out the words written in elegant calligraphy. They were titles, each one promising untold stories and forgotten lore. "What are we looking for?" I asked, my voice echoing in the cavernous space. "For your past," he whispered, his eyes fixed on a book in the corner of the stall. "For the pieces of you that are scattered and lost." With trembling hands, he pulled the book from the shelf and opened it slowly. As the pages rustled, I felt a jolt of recognition, as if the words on the page were somehow familiar to me. The language was ancient, yet the words seemed to dance before my eyes, forming shapes and images that resonated deep within me. Yunus closed the book, his face grave. "This is a dangerous path we walk," he said, his voice low. "But if you wish to find your lost pieces, we must follow it." I whispered, my voice barely audible. And so our journey began.